Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metropolis Radio. Today we are playing The Simpsons Hidden Run, and we are playing The Simpsons Hidden Run for a very good reason, because I just came across this article a couple days ago, and from a Screen Rant here, and that's why confusing continuity is still the biggest Simpsons problem. The Simpsons prides itself on ignoring canon and continuity, but this has resulted in a disastrous lack of depth and stakes in recent seasons. Now, I'm going to be honest, guys, I have not really kept up with the modern Simpsons. I watch it pretty much off and on, but I've seen the vast majority of stuff that came out in the 90s, early 2000s, and that's really where I stopped watching it. So, without further delay, let's just dig right into this article. So this article starts off with an executive producer of The Simpsons recently dismissed fan annoyance about the show's inconsistent continuity and non-existent canon. But these issues are responsible for many of the biggest issues both critics and viewers have with the show since the series debuted back in 1989. The Simpsons has never been overly concerned with canon or continuity. A few Simpsons characters have died and stayed dead in the show's 32 seasons, but this handful of occurrences typically had more to do with actor availability than the desire to establish any formal canon. Like most animated sitcoms, The Simpsons has instead played fast and loose with its own canon. This has allowed the series to pull off some hilarious moments, but has also robbed The Simpsons of potential poignancy in recent years. As the inconsistent characterization and backstory makes the cast of characters harder to care about, for the creators, however, the continuity of the series is evidently no concern. Yeah, like somehow Homer grew up in the 90s, but then if you watch one of the older seasons, I cannot remember the episode to save my life. Homer was alive for the moon landing. So yeah, somehow he grew up in both the 1960s and the 1990s. Producer Matt Selman told Simpsons fans to chill out about canon on the show, and in doing so, the executive producer hit on one of the series' biggest issues. While there is no shortage of elements contributing to the critical decline of The Simpsons, such as celebrities playing themselves, the lack of a clear continuity robs viewers of any reason to really invest in the characters. Although Selman claims the absurd cartoon comedy of The Simpsons is silly enough to preclude the need for consistency, this South Park-style defense does not make sense for a show that wants to create characters with lovable, instantly recognizable persona. A lack of continuity contributes directly to the inconsistent characterization of The Simpsons' main players, resulting in phenomena like jerk-ass Homer and the broader fan distaste for recent seasons of The Simpsons. And here's the first point that the article delves into, and that is Selman's comments on Simpsons canon. When an episode Do Pizza Bots Dream of Electric Guitars, Season 32, Episode 15, depicted Homer as a teenager in the 90s, fans were understandably annoyed, while The Simpsons' Treehouse of Horror outings always flouted canon. The show itself has not typically taken a wholeheartedly dismissive approach to the idea of internal consistency until now. The fan ire prompted a response from Selman. Now, Selman took to Twitter. Now, for the life of me, guys, I could not find this original tweet to save my life, so I have to pull this from the article itself. And Matt Selman wrote on Twitter, quote, "The Simpsons is a 32-year-old series where the characters do not age, so the canon must be elastic, contradictory, silly. This does not mean other beloved classic The Simpsons flashback shows didn't happen. None of this happened. It's all made up. Every episode is its own Groundhog Day. That only makes sense for the story. If that, there is no Simpsons canon or non-canon." End quote. Selman's justification that The Simpsons is not only condescendingly obvious, it also hardly holds water when the series is simultaneously attempting to be an up to the minute satire of cultural and social mores. The claim it's all made up makes The Simpsons' then recent critically mauled attempts at political commentary impossible to justify to, as if The Simpsons is an extravagantly silly, playful series where nothing is consistent, it would be a poor vector for meaningful satire of current events. And here's the second point the article goes into: why The Simpsons can't use South Park's approach. Written to respond to each week's world events, the extremely timely and and occasional prescient stories of South Park are similarly loose when it comes to the issues of canon. However, that series can pull off this approach because continuity is sacrificed for the sake of timeliness and comedic effectiveness, whereas The Simpsons has abandoned canon without any justification. The humor of the latter has grown more cartoony over the decades, but audiences have never wanted the show to be Looney Tunes. So Selman's justification does not add up. If anything, claiming there is no Simpsons canon weakens the show's ability to make cutting satirical comics, as it excuses a lack of consistency. And here's the article's third main point here. The problem with The Simpsons' paradoxical continuity. The phrase borrowed from Selman's tweets, the term paradoxical continuity, perfectly encapsulates the issue with the non-canon of The Simpsons. The show, like South Park, still tries to comment on contemporary society and satirize current pop culture, as epitomized by a string of failed Stranger Things spoofs. At the same time, The Simpsons doesn't want to be hemmed in by continuity. Without the characters having a clear age, is Homer a boomer, a Gen Xer, a millennial? The trends being parodied have no solid anchor, and the parodies are at best toothless. At the time of their release, animated comedy shows that ripped off The Simpsons, like Capital Critters, were accused of having no target audience, as their satire was too mild for adult viewers, but confusing for children. In its recent seasons, The Simpsons seems to have borrowed this approach, however unintentionally, as the non-existent canon in PG-rated comedy makes incisive satire a rare sight. Many animated comedies like South Park or American Dad boast similarly non-existent continuity, save for the former's brief attempt at serialization, but both boast a more mature rating and the ability to tell darker stories. This gives both series the creative freedom to make shocking, impactful jokes, while the more family-friendly legs of animated shows like Bob's Burgers succeeded by establishing a lovable cast of misfits and, crucially, containing their misadventures within a clear continuity. And here is the article's fourth and final point: why The Simpsons needs canon. Despite The Simpsons influencing all of these later series, the show has failed to find its footing in the wake of its imitators' success, and its lack of continuity is central to this. If the creators want the creative freedom of series like South Park, they need to add more mature humor to The Simpsons, which is currently more cartoonish than ever. If the series hopes to reestablish the warm, PG-rated atmosphere of its early years, it needs to pay more attention to canon and give viewers a reason to care about these characters by offering a more solid, engaging backstory for them. Splitting the difference has always resulted in the continuing critical decline of The Simpsons and the gradual loss of fan interest in what was once television's crowning comedy achievement. And I do agree with this article to an extent in that, you know, the biggest problem with The Simpsons is that it's not really written like a sitcom if you actually sit and break it down. The earlier seasons were, but as time has gone on, they've been wanting to tell more and more serious stories. And this article doesn't bring it up, but, you know, let's bring it up here. Let's bring up Family Guy, one of The Simpsons' biggest imitators. Family Guy is more written like a sitcom than The Simpsons is, where Family Guy constantly resets the status quo by the end of each episode. Therefore, they can get away with not having a clear-cut continuity, even though it is there in Family Guy to a degree, but if it were to be completely absent, no one would really lose any sleep over it, because, again, you know, Family Guy is written more like a classic sitcom from the 60s and 70s, whereas The Simpsons has wanted to go more and more serious. And I think this really touches on the fact that The Simpsons has just ran for far too long. You know, Matt Selman even brought it up, is that, you know, the show has been on now for 32 years. I think it's time to really hang it up. Because at some point, your imitators are gonna do the very thing you once did even better, and now you just can't compete anymore. And guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end it right here because I think I've gone on for as long as I need to go. If you stuck around this long, thanks so much for doing so. And if you guys have been following me long enough, you know I'm terrible at ending these videos, so I will just see you guys next time.